Hello, welcome to the channel. All honor, glory, and praise be to our one and only Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I hope you all are doing well out there. Welcome to another conference. What I want to talk about would be when your enemies are under your feet and they don't know that they are. Because for one thing, they have overestimated themselves and underestimated you. And Father and I have made clowns out of all of my enemies. I don't know about you guys out there, but I know that whatever obstacles you're facing right now, or enemies that you're facing, once you give it to Jesus, or initially how I'm hearing it, once you get with Jesus, it's pretty much a wrap for your enemies. You know, it is still very just mind-boggling that a pack of idiots, a multitude of idiots, actually band together to form an alliance to come up against me. It's like, for real. Craziness, you guys. And the thing about it is, you know, it's obvious that it was supernatural and that was a demonic attack. It's obvious, because who does that? Who does that? You guys, I'm telling you, it was just the strangest things, and there were the strangest things occurring around me that, you know, of course I can't elaborate on this interview right now, but just things that even people who don't know Jesus were noticing, like, what the world, you know, what's going, you know, when you get those looks from people, perhaps like, what's going on with you, maybe, I don't know, I can't think of any instance specifically, but there was just some crazy stuff going on. I'm telling you, I have to pick and choose what I share right now, but in my conferences, but it was just crazy. And then, you know, the bums from Franklinton, you know, those tramps, you know, they've always had a deep-rooted hatred and jealousy for and towards me. It is unbelievable. You wouldn't think that there were actually individuals on this planet that just meditate on one person so much. It was like they were just obsessed or something, you know. But I can recall attending someone's graduation. It was a high school graduation years back. And there were a group of, no, I can't say it like that. There were some Franklinton enemies out there. And the graduation had taken place in another town. And I was actually at the college. It was a college, I think, that the graduation was being held at. And I was actually out there with a bloodline person or bloodline persons. And I saw a group of those greasy-haired, grizzly-looking Franklinton girls that I had attended high school with. And I was at somebody else's graduation, though. And one of them, or maybe two of them, I don't know how many, but it was at least one of them, made it a point to greet my bloodline person, but deliberately snuffed me, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know what you call it. But the thing about it is, and the person that did that, I'm thinking, I don't like you, whoever it was. Anyway, I'm like, I don't want you to speak to me. I don't need you to speak to me. I don't care if you speak to somebody that I'm related to and don't speak to me. I could care less. But that's just how much player hate that those wretches were full of. And it was a group of those girls specifically from that town and that school. They were first of all, they were ugly. They dressed bad. They were just overly obsessive with me. And there was just a certain group. I guess they were related. I don't know. I never associated with them, of course, because I don't mess with trash, especially if I know it's trash. And they didn't want anything to do with me anyway, and I've never wanted anything to do with them. So they need not toot their own horn if they have been tooting it. And I think I've more than, made that clarification that I've never wanted anything to do with any of those Franklinton folks. But, in high school, of course, or ever. But anyway, you guys, it could have been the same, if not the same individual. There was a certain clique of black females from that town that will always target me, and they always had a lot of mouth towards me. But I would always ignore them and turn my nose up to them, as I did all my enemies. And that's one thing. I was the queen of giving somebody something to kiss, so to speak. Of not acknowledging my enemies. I was the queen of that. And I had mastered it, actually, in high school. And but I just remember that particular day, and I just want to speak on it because, if that individual is listening to my video, if the dummy is still even alive, I could have cared less about that person, or whoever you are. I could have cared less about you speaking to my bloodline person and not speaking to me. I didn't want you to speak to me. I don't like you. You don't like me. There's no need to get somewhere out of town and be fake. So anyway, that's for whoever it was, because there was a group of black girls from that high school that I absolutely could not stand. There were a couple of cliques of black girls from that school that I could not stand. They were the ugliest things you ever seen in your life, but they had their tongue on everybody else that they were jealous of. And then, like I said, if you were a female that had some attractiveness to you, they couldn't stand you. And we all go through that awkward phase, I guess, in adolescence, where you're growing into whoever you're supposed to be. But those things, oh my gosh, they couldn't put their tongue on anybody, and then, a lot of time, I think, like I said, even on what you might feel is your worst day, 9 times out of 10, you look better than your enemies. But, I think it was something out of that clique that used to, I think the person that did that was affiliated with something that had yelled something at me disrespectfully from a school bus window one day after school, when the students had gotten onto the buses out there. And I remember I was standing on the playground at the high school, and there was one of those stumpy, greasy-haired Franklinton girls. She had yelled something disrespectful to me from the school bus. She was in the bus, and she made it her business to put her ugly face up in the window to yell something at me. And now listen, you guys, I'm on the playground. I'm standing on the playground. She's on the bus. So she's on the bus focused on me. And that's that's how it was, And then I know there was another female from that group that was actually, I think, in my graduating class. And I remember she was working at a gas station in a nearby town. And I had gone in there one day, and she had already started gristling up. Her posture had began to change, and she started to grow uneasy.